Hey kids, Oldman shouting at clouds. Back again for another episode of Oldman Plays CFL Fantasy. Here to help your team do better. We'll see if I can do that. Had two great players last week. Had Bo, and I made him quarterback, made him my captain, and I had Rock Armstead. Between them, they got 60.5 points. You'd think I'd have a great week. My total, 92.4. My other players and defense, so the defense, one running back, two wide receivers, and flex, five of them, they averaged 6.4 points for me. So, not good, but I'm learning from it. I did a little bit of self-scouting that we'll talk about here in a bit, and hopefully do better this week. The other thing was my pick'em. Went 3-1 for the week. Doing fairly well there, depending on how you count them. The website says I'm 40-23. Doesn't count the ties, it actually counts them as wins. If you count the way most people are, I'm 38-23-2. Anyway, my self-scouting for this week. Well, I realized that if you've watched this for very long at all, you know that I had a real bad 5 or 6 game stretch there where my quarterbacks were just dropping like flies. They either had terrible games or they got injured early. It was ridiculous. My high for them, as captains, I usually make the quarterback captain. My high score for them was, I think, 22 points or something, and most of them were down in single digits. So that kind of freaked me out, and I was chasing points from others. So I was looking for touchdowns and going after big points from my other players. And that's a mug's game in fantasy. You don't know where the touchdowns are coming from, but you know how many carries somebody gets, and you know, more importantly, for the wide, if you're using wide receivers and flex, you know how many targets they get, and that stays consistent. You can get your points from receptions and yardage on those players, and if they get any touchdowns, that's a bonus. And I think that's the way to go forward. So to be quite honest with you, this week, I've already kind of picked my team. I have looked through the depth charts and the injury reports and that to make sure the people I want are there, but even before I did that, I was looking through it, going over in my head and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So the team, if I can get it, I want to go with Bo at quarterback. My running backs will be Rock Armstead from Saskatchewan and Brady Oliveira out of Winnipeg. My wide receivers will be Samar Bridges from Hamilton to team up with Bo and hopefully double up some points there. Justin Hardy from Ottawa and Keenan Schaefer-Baker from Saskatchewan. But I have looked through the others. Defense, of course, will be whatever I can afford. I've looked through the other teams because I have a feeling that's going to be tough on the budget. I think most of those are going to be high-priced players. So looking through them, who else might I consider? Well, Lewis and Gittens out of Edmonton in the first game. Lewis averages 6.5 targets a game. Gittens gets 6.8. Gittens Jr., I guess. And I might consider Rankin as a running back there if I need to. I think he's still a little bit lower priced. Winnipeg, not picking anybody but Brady. I'm counting on the fact he's there, but the depth chart isn't out again. I don't know if this happens with everybody, but every other team seems to get their depth chart out 24 hours ahead of the game. Winnipeg, it seems to come out after the game starts. I don't know how they're allowed that. But anyway, that's it. BC, I'm kind of shying away from because I don't know if it's going to be good Nathan or bad Nathan, or actually that's probably wrong putting it on Nathan, whether it's going to be good Lions or bad Lions. That team is so Jekyll and Hyde. So maybe McInnes, who gets averages 7.5 targets a game, and maybe stand back at running back if I need him. Hamilton, I already said I'm taking Bo and Bridges, who gets 6 or 8.2. Some of the highest in the league. I think he's tied up there for the highest in the league on targets. If I have to, I might consider going to White. He gets 7.1 per game, but I don't really like putting two players from the one team on there. And he's streaky. Sometimes he gets great, sometimes not so much. The other thing to keep in mind, I'm not taking any running backs from this game because they're not sure at this point. They have both Bell and Butler on the depth chart, and Bell is listed as a game time decision, so I'm just staying away from that. Ottawa, I did say I want Hardy. He's the other one who's up at 8.2 targets a game, and maybe Rhymes, 7.3 targets. In the Saskatchewan, the other half of that game, Schaefer-Baker, I think he's only 6.8 targets, but I think that's because of when Patterson was in. It seems to me that Harris throws to him more than Emilus. Emilus is up at like 7.7, but I don't feel so good about that. And Armstead, like I said, I'm taking running back. The other one I might consider is Johnson at 6.2. I think he might be a little bit cheaper still. And then the last game, Montreal, Fletcher. Out of the backfield, maybe, if I can't get the running backs that I want, if he's any cheaper. He also gets a lot of throws. Julian Grant is 6 targets per game, and Reggie White Jr. is 5.4. So maybe those. And then the last team, the other half of that game, is Toronto. They're going against that Montreal pass defense that is very good. You can run against them, so maybe carry, but I'm kind of thinking I want to stay away from them. And they spread it around a lot. Nobody gets over 6 targets a game, but if you're looking for them, Coxie gets 5.6, Polk gets 4.8, and Daniels gets 5.2. So those are all ones to consider. But I know what I'm doing if the budget will let me. So let's head on over to the computer and work some magic. Okay, so here we go. Let's start. We said at quarterback, we said we wanted Bo Levi Mitchell, and there he is right up at the top. And then running backs, I was looking for Brady Oliveira at the top, too. Oh, I have a feeling I may run into budget issues for the first time in a while. Standback is expensive, but I didn't want him. I wanted to go with Armstead. And where does he go? Oh, he's 8, so that's not too bad. That may help me. Now, the players, the wide receivers, I wanted to team up. I'm going to go to Hamilton here. I wanted to team up Bridges, who's also 10K, with Bo. Hopefully that'll work. And I was going to put Justin Hardy from Ottawa on there, who's also 12K. So where are we at now? That leaves 13.6 to do the flex and the defense. So I don't know if I'll get Schaefer Baker in at that price. But let's see here. We'll go to Saskatchewan Roughriders. Emlis is too expensive. Yeah, Baker is too expensive. I need more than 2K left for a defense. But, oh, here's Johnson, Keyshawn Johnson, the new Keyshawn, that I said was also getting a fair number of targets. If we put him in there, what does that leave us? That's 8.6 for the defense. So I'll go to defense here. I'll open this up to everybody again, and I'm going to set it up by price. There we go, yep. Okay, so Montreal and Winnipeg are both out. They're too expensive. But I can afford Ottawa, Edmonton, and everybody else. And of those, given the matchups that are here, I think I feel best about Saskatchewan. I think they might be back on the turnover gravy train. So I'll make Bo into my captain here. I'll take that and I will lock it in. And there we go. For those that are listening on the podcast and can't see the screen on YouTube, I've got the Saskatchewan Roughrider defense, Bo Levi Mitchell from Hamilton on quarterback. My running backs are Brady Oliveira to Winnipeg and Rock Armstead from Saskatchewan. Shamar Bridges of Hamilton and Justin Hardy of Ottawa are my wide receivers, and Keyshawn Johnson out of Saskatchewan is my flex player. And there you have it. Those are my picks for the week. As always, if you want to use them, do so at your peril. No guarantees here. We're pretty much at the end, so it's beg time. Please, if you've enjoyed this, subscribe. There should be a little subscribe button over here the whole video now. I'm learning how to do all kinds of neat new things on YouTube. So subscribe if you're on YouTube there. On podcast, please rate, review. Then also, if you know anyone else, football fan, who might get something out of this, please share it out. And hit the like button a lot. Makes me feel good seeing likes. You can make my day with that. And of course, comments helps. Comments drives the algorithm to send this out to other people. So I would appreciate that. That's pretty much the beg over with. I will say now, I hope you have a really good week. I hope you enjoy the football this weekend. Good luck with your fantasy teams. We'll be back here next week to recap what happened and to see where we're going for next week. So until then, until next week, get the hell off my lawn.